Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source of superhero movies and discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Koufax.
I'm the Arrow when I'm so dark.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear from Earth Prime.
And when I say multiverse, boy, oh boy, is that no more applicable today than I think any episode that we go on, because we are talking about DC television, and if there's anything DC television does, it's get just as mixed up as regular DC comics. How do we decipher all this stuff? Well, I think you guys have a good idea. We'll break it all down here for you because there's a television event afoot. Which one is this one called? Because I'm
Elseworlds.
Elseworlds, because I'm going to call it the thing that's coming up next, and we're not even remotely there
yet. It's
essentially
a prequel, but man, it's a good prequel.
So we'll be talking about that. All these available on the CW app right now. If you don't even have any subscriptions to anything, you can just download that app, and they're like, there you go, there's our shows. You got to watch this.
It's not for free, like I own the place.
You got to watch the same Liberty Mutual ad 28 times, but the
best part about it is that you immediately know the slogan for it with their, or not the slogan, but the jingle, because it's just liberty, 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 liberty.
Ugh.
And I got some great insurance now.
It's them, and there's another one. It's just like it's the same three commercials for.
I get a lot of Thomas Middleditch
1878 shows.
CW app.
Oh, there's every once in a while you'll get a Thomas Middleditch ad for sure.
Liberty. Liberty.
So terrible. It's just like, I don't have money, people. I can't buy insurance. Get it away from me. But you can be ensured that today we sat down and watched these 3 episodes, and
you're a king, Portrais.
We're gonna talk about them. Yeah,
that's a segue.
I tell you what, every now and then I even impress myself, and you know what I'd be impressed with if we sat down and take a listen to a little descriptor here of this here television event.
Previously on Arrow and Flash.
The world thinks that you're Oliver Queen and that I'm Barry Allen, and I would really like to know why.
So what's our next move?
I'm going to Gotham City.
Who are you, and why are you helping us?
Kane. Kate Kane.
He calls himself the Monitor. He's been unleashing the Book of Destiny across the multiverse to test different Earths.
A crisis is imminent. Someone is coming. Someone far, far more powerful than myself. I mean to prepare.
He did it again. He rewrote reality.
Alrighty, so that is it, everybody. We've got some interesting things to talk about here, because my guess is we are going to have quite the many of a connection, and if I can make my stupid computer work properly, I'll be able to put off the stupid tone. It's not working. Hold on.
Have you tried swearing at it?
Not yet, but I'm getting there, boy.
Does it have a cord you pull on like a lawnmower?
I forgot to clean up the desktop, so I couldn't hit the... That was just like, which one of these 88 files is it? Bruce, what do we got?
Well, comic book stories, and perhaps stories in general, live and die based on the strength of their villains. And DC Comics, having a long and prolific history, has no shortage of villains in their repertoire from which to choose. When it comes down to it, I think we can all agree that no DC villains strike fear in the hearts of readers like the Trigger Twins, the dastardly duo that have been making folks fudge their pants ever since the 1800s. Now, Walter and Wayne Trigger first appeared in All-Star Western number 58 way back in 1951. Created by Robert Kanigher, who is best known for being the author of How to Make Money Writing, a book I clearly have never read, and legendary artist Carmine Infantino. Now, Walt is a sheriff, while Wayne is a civilian and his twin brother. However, Wayne is way more accurate and faster on the draw with guns than his brother, a secret known only by the pair themselves. The series' running theme was Wayne impersonating Walt on various adventures as needed, though secretly wearing identical clothes and using a twin of Walt's horse so that no one suspects that Wayne was covering for Walt. You know what? Why didn't they just make Wayne the sheriff? Like, was there something that disqualified Wayne from just being the sheriff? Oh, those crazy cowboys. Well, about 30 years later, the twins appeared in All-Star Squadron during the Crisis on Infinite Earths, at which point it's revealed they reside on Earth 2, and I hope that twist wasn't too shocking for you. Now, a modern pair of Trigger twins are introduced in Detective Comics number 667 from October 1993. They are Tom and Tad Trigger, a pair of criminals who resemble their Old West counterparts, although it is unknown if they're actually related. They first meet when they both decide separately to rob the same bank at the same time. Hey, that's the exact same way the old Sean and Adam met. I bet you never knew that, Shaun. Well, those shocked and confused at seeing how they look alike, in a move which exposes both of their faces to the bank customers, they decide to work together in finishing the robbery and escaping. They later try to make more money by robbing a local mafia numbers runner. Despite two of his men being killed by the duo, the boss of the organization talks the twins into working for him. And you see, kids, crime does pay. Now, during the Blackest Night crossover, the Trigger twins are among the many deceased villains that receive a black power ring, reanimating them into Black Lanterns, and that is probably the last time we got to enjoy the Trigger twins in the pages of DC Comics. Now, Marv Wolfman and George Perez created another character of note, Mar Novu, a.k.a. the Monitor. Now, Wolfman discussed his conception of the Monitor. Quote, "I had the character about 18 years ago. I called him the Librarian then because I didn't have a good sense about names and thought that it would be a neat idea to do that. You know, one villain that the whole company could use. I didn't have to sell it to Marvel because they already had the Watcher. But when I came back to DC, I indicated that I wanted to do it here. Everyone liked it but forgot to hand out the sheets I gave for the writers. So I had to redo it, indicating how far you can take the character from month A to month B. Like for 3 months, you can only show this much. And after 6 months, you can show that much. And at the end of a year, we can reveal who that character is and start getting into interesting stories that all the writers can pick up on." End quote. The slow reveal of this character did have a grand payoff for comic book fans who wanted a little house cleaning with DC's confusing continuity in Crisis on Infinite Earths. 13 billion years ago, the multiverse was born due to tampering with the creation of the universe by Krona, a scientist from the planet Maltus, who was attempting to view the beginning of the universe. As a result of his actions, an infinite number of parallel universes were brought into existence, side by side, separated only by minuscule vibrational differences. None of them as strong as the single universe that existed earlier would have been. Krona's experiment made it a multiverse instead of one single universe. Later, Monitor was born on Oa's moon, apparently as the living embodiment of all positive matter universes. One of these universes was composed entirely of antimatter, and on the moon of Oa's counterpart, Quard, a hideous mockery of life was born from its very soil, a being that would come to be known as the Anti-Monitor. As the evil Anti-Monitor conquered the universe, the Monitor watched him, and when the Anti-Monitor sensed his presence, they began battling across the dimensional barrier in a war that lasted 1 million years. A simultaneous attack rendered them both unconscious, and they lay unmoving for more than 9 billion years until the Monitor felt his evil counterpart awaken. As a result of another experiment on the creation of the universe by another scientist, which resulted in the destruction of that scientist's universe. He found this scientist, a man who would become known as Pariah, and used him to follow the Anti-Monitor's path of destruction in his newly created spaceship, the Anti-Monitor Cruiser Zone, or something like that. As the Anti-Monitor consumed worlds with his destructive antimatter, thus increasing his power as his antimatter universe expanded to fill the gap that had been left, the Monitor grew weaker. He studied every single universe for the means to fight the Anti-Monitor, but even though countless universes were threatened, he took the time to save an orphaned girl, the only survivor of a shipwreck, and he raised her on his ship. That girl, Lila Michaels, grew up to become Harbinger. And the astute Berlanti fan will note that Lila is the name of John Diggle's wife on Arrow. Perhaps there's a connection there. Now, the final piece of the comic book puzzle that bears discussing is Psycho Pirate. Psycho Pirate wears a golden mask known as a Medusa mask. And this golden mask bestows upon the wearer the power to project emotions onto others. In the Crisis on Infinite Earths, he's abducted by the Anti-Monitor, and in exchange for an entire world to play with, Psycho Pirate becomes an accomplice to the Anti-Monitor. Barry Allen is manipulated by Psycho Pirate to battle the hero sent to save him, And although the Anti-Monitor constantly belittles the Psycho Pirate, he keeps him around because his emotion-manipulating abilities may prove useful, and the Anti-Monitor doesn't really have the time to find or create someone else with those powers. What I like best about Psycho Pirate is after the resolution of the crisis, he is one of the few to have full memories of the event. This results in making him an in-universe comic book historian, and thus one of the coolest character concepts of all time, in my humble opinion. He is driven insane from this knowledge, and I can personally vouch for the fact that too much knowledge of DC's convoluted history can make a person go off their rocker.
Psycho Pirate, huh?
Yeah.
That just reeks of a we got to come up with a name before lunch. Psycho Pirate. All right, let's get the heck out of here.
Well, they were also just running out of things to call things.
Okay, kids love pirates, and I like the movie Psycho. So let's call him Pirate Psycho. That's just lame, Kevin. Let's make him Psycho Pirate. Much better.
I like the way you think, Johnson. Someone's getting a raise. Not you, but someone.
But no, man, anytime Psycho Pirate shows up in the comics, you know you're going to get some... he's like if Grant Morrison were turned into a comic book character.
Kind of looks like Grant Morrison when you think about it.
Isn't Grant Morrison a comic book character in Animal Man?
I'm sure he is, man. Don't even get me started.
So before we start getting into this whole thing, I need to ask you guys this question because I don't want to tread over territory that you've been on before. But have we discussed, or have you guys discussed, the guy who plays Superman?
Not really.
I don't think so, no.
I've talked about him a little bit on Chubby Wizard, but nothing significant.
And do you guys know where he comes from?
Glee?
Do you know what he was before that?
Astronaut.
Yeah, astronaut.
He is the kid. He is Michael in the Tom Hanks movie, Road to Perdition.
That's really cool. So we've covered this guy before.
Yes, we have.
Now, first off, I didn't know that he was actually in Glee. That's just my answer for anybody in the Berlantiverse show, because they all came from Glee. I mean,
was they once on a show we used to do? Bingo.
Well, he came from, I believe he came from Teen Wolf, and that's probably how he got the Superman gig. I'm looking. Yeah, I don't see him on Glee.
I just like the casting thoughts, and it's like, you know what? We've had all kinds of different takes on Superman, but we've never had one with two caterpillars for eyebrows.
Wow.
Yeah, there he is. Road to Perdition, Michael Sullivan Jr. Bam.
That's a great pool, Sean. I'm proud of that one, man.
I found it trying to find a Stallone connection for this. And when I ran ass backwards into that, I was like, holy cow, look at that.
Now, I have to feel like they put this together specifically just to try to pull Shaun into the mix of the Berlanti universe, because it starts on Earth 90 with the John Wesley ship Flash, which I've heard you're a fan of.
Indeed.
Now,
so did it work? I mean, were you like kind of giddy when you first see this going on? When you first see that version of Barry Allen?
That's not enough for me. I mean, if that's all they had, that's not enough, because that feels like some hokum that they've tried to pull in the past. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm guessing that that's the case. What I did enjoy the Flash episode of this, because it's three. We should say it's in 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you start in the Flash, then you go to Arrow, and then you go to Supergirl. Am I right?
That's correct.
And with the Flash episode is great. It's fun. It's weird. Stephen Amell. Yeah, looks so weird in the Flash costume.
I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to talk a little bit about that too. For whatever reason, before this season of The Flash came out, there was some social media stuff where people were kind of saying that Grant Gustin looked bad in the costume. They were kind of hating on Grant Gustin a little bit, saying that maybe he wasn't in good enough shape to pull off a superhero. And, he fired back, defending himself. But you cannot say that Stephen Amell does not have a body made to frame a costume, and he still looks horrible in that
Here's
costume.
the thing. I'll say this, because I haven't watched Flash in a while. I'm like, what is this costume? I don't know how long he's had this thing. But like I see this now and I'm like, this is just horribly designed. It looks so bad.
I mean, when you make Stephen Amell look bad, you've really done something.
They
'cause
had
it's hard to make him look bad.
when they started this thing out, like that was the most praiseworthy thing of this show is how darn good that costume looked. It was like, wow, you almost couldn't have done better than that. They upgraded it a little bit, and that was fine. But now they've gone to a point where it's just like, what is this? This looks like Captain America in the first Avengers. It looks terrible.
And they've got a problem where they, for some reason, feel like they need to change the costume every season. And I kind of feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, but I like it. What I like is that it looked just as bad on Stephen Amell, so people can lay off on Grant Gustin. You know what I mean?
I haven't seen him in it, but man, oh man, Amell looked terrible, and the beard does not help things out. That almost handicaps you even further.
I thought that part was kind of funny, and then there's sort of
it looks like his head is a balloon that's being blown up for a parade.
And there's also part of me watching like the whole body switch thing. I'm enjoying. As a comic book fan and a fan of superhero media. But then there's kind of the behind the scenes thing where I'm wondering, like, is Candace Patton really enjoying getting to work with Stephen Amell instead of Grant Gustin for a week or two? You know what I mean? Like, is she grabbing the director and saying, wouldn't this scene work better if his shirt was off? Maybe shouldn't that kiss linger for another 30 minutes? You know, I wonder if she's saying stuff like that because, you know, it's probably a treat.
Well, I think anything that's different from the usual is probably going to be a welcome change.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when, look at it like this, like Star Trek The Next Generation, which I'm not like knee deep in. I watched a bunch of episodes, you know, like everyone else. But I do remember hearing that the cast's favorite episodes were when they didn't have to wear their costumes, when they could do something else.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that it's the same on something that's as formulaic as The Flash.
Yeah. I can see that.
So just having anything different at all is probably just so fun and welcomed.
And as bad as the Flash costume looked on Stephen Amell, man, it still looked great. The costume from the 90s show still looked great on John Wesley Shipp.
It's a little modified from that, but the style of it, yeah.
I mean, I'm looking right at an autographed picture of the guy in the costume. It's close enough, man. It still looks great, though. It looked better to me on screen than what Stephen Amell had on.
Oh, 1,000% yes. You won't. No, you'll certainly not get that argument from me. No.
Yeah, even with
millions in design costs went into that costume, so that would make sense.
But what about Barry in the? First off, what a rough way to wake up. You wake up and you're in a fist fight with John Diggle, who, man, that would be about the worst way I can imagine waking up because he's a tough looking dude.
Like that's the first thing that I thought what was just like, oh, you wake up and you're in the middle of a fight. There could be few things weirder than that. Of just regaining consciousness in the middle of battle. Doesn't matter even if you're sparring or what. It's just like, wait a minute, what happened here?
and you know, let's be honest. Getting punched in the face by John Diggle probably feels like being kicked by a large draft horse.
Yeah, probably. I don't want to get punched by nobody.
He's a muscly guy, man. He's like nothing but muscle. Muscles and ears. That's all the guy is. But I do think Barry pulled off the Green Arrow costume pretty good because, you know, it's loose fitting. It's got the hood on it. It's a cool costume that worked on him, I thought.
It's meant to be something that looks cool, and it certainly does.
Better than the Flash costume.
Look at it like this. Like everything that Grant Gustin has had to go through in the last couple of years being the Flash, like I can't even imagine how just... Like, what does your day-to-day look like when you are smack dab in the middle of, like, angry comic book nerds, just still so upset, people who hate watch the show, people who have nothing better to do than say something terrible to them on social media. Like, I mean, that must be a daily occurrence.
And something that doesn't help is that Grant Gustin has a bit of social anxiety. So he doesn't do appearances. He doesn't do conventions. Meanwhile, Stephen Amell is supposed to be like the most fun, outgoing convention crazy guy there is. I mean, he does this whole heroes and villains convention that I don't get paid a penny for that he put together. and he's like everywhere all the time. So he's also got a little bit better relationship with the fans too, I think, because of that.
Yeah, and also there's something about him, about Stephen Amell, that doesn't warrant people constantly going after him. There's something about the way that Grant Gustin looks that makes people go, oh, I need to make fun of this guy. You know, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it to you, but there is something about him that makes people want to say this crap to him.
I think that's kind of a bummer too, man.
I don't know, because it's just like, I guess to me it's a lot of I've never wanted to think like the Flash should be like a big and, you know, bulky superhero looking-y kind of guy. I don't want him looking like Steve Amell.
You don't want him to cast John Cena as the Flash?
No, it does. Like, I don't need that. I just, you know, a regular skinny.
It has some
Flash
comedic value.
Fine to be. Well, it'd be something, but nothing good. But it'd be something.
Realistically, wouldn't the Flash look like Paul Schaefer?
Ah.
Oh, I was. Oh man, I was. The Paul Scheer is who I was thinking.
Either or. I mean, you know,
also
that's
good.
He's done impressions of him, so I wouldn't see
Paul Scheer has actually written comics though for Marvel, not DC. But I would love to see a Paul Scheer version of the Flash now that you mention it, because you know, we've already had my comments on, like, if I had superpowers, why would I even bother going to the gym? You know what I mean? Like I would look exactly like I do now if I were the Flash or Superman. But Oliver Queen, he has to work out because he got no superpowers.
But I thought this was like one of the interesting bits about like this episode was that it's, you know, everyone gets, you know, the other guy's kind of powers and everything. But I don't think it would work like it would work in the real world.
Well, first off, I don't think this happens often in the real world. So that's where those kind of arguments break down.
But if you did, all of a sudden you had all these powers, you would just be exactly like that person when they were first learning to use these things. You wouldn't go like, well, I guess I've seen other people do it, so watch this.
Here's the thing that got me is they were inconsistent with their own rules. And I think, Shaun, you'll agree with me on this, that you can go with whatever the rules are, but you have to be consistent, right?
Yeah, it's the deal of you know, at least play in your own sandbox.
So Oliver Queen has none of Barry Allen's instincts. He just has his speed. But somehow Barry, you know, Grant Gustin as the Green Arrow, suddenly has all of Oliver's instincts without knowing he has them. Like if they were playing, if they gave Barry the same rules that they gave Ollie, every time he shot the arrow, it'd be going wild. He wouldn't even like put it on the bow correctly, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because Oliver can't do a lightning throw. He can't stop in time. He can't do anything. He has no instincts. He just has the speed. But all that the Green Arrow has to go on are his instincts and training. So Barry has all that. And that was a little inconsistency there. You know, I thought it would have been kind of fun if Barry Allen was just absolutely awful as the Green Arrow.
He's just struggling to get it back. Just I don't have the upper body strength for this.
Or even, you know, just funnier, like Diggle's counting on him to make this like what should be a pretty easy shot for Oliver Queen. And when Barry does it, the arrow doesn't even like fly properly out of the bow. It just tumbles to the ground or something.
I haven't really brought this up yet.
Yeah. Man,
I hate the characters on Green Arrow. I hate them.
All of them?
All of them. They're all terrible.
I'm kind of in the same group. I just don't care about any of these people, and I don't find any of them truly interesting at all. I don't find him interesting.
Even Quentin Lance. Oh man, I loved Quentin Lance when he was on the show. He was the most awesome, goofy guy in the history.
I just look around. I'm just like, all of these people are boring. And it happens throughout all three of these things. Green Arrow's "I'm dark, leave me alone" act is just like, oh, come on, just no. You know, these people that like, they aren't like really like they're like super like, you know, clinically depressed people, but they want you to feel something for them. So they're just like, hey man, I'm dark, I'm moody, and it's just like you're just saying this because you want to appear this way. Just cut it out.
So I'm sensing in the first episode, maybe you guys aren't having a little bit of fun with this, because this was a lot of fun to me. I love about this, what I love about the universe.
In the first one.
Good. Because what I love about this universe is that it's all fun and doesn't take itself too seriously, and you can have a little bit of fun with it.
No,
now,
when they meet up with Supergirl, that's when I was like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what this should be.
And they really are trying to do the television equivalent of what Crisis on Infinite Earths did in the comics, where they're bringing storylines that you thought were totally dead and unrelated together. Because when they go to Earth 38 and they go to Smallville, you guys may not have been able to appreciate this, but that was the actual set from Smallville, the TV show.
I did notice the musical cue, which I thought was a
music
great way
what
to.
I knew.
Yeah, that's the Smallville theme song that they were playing, and they went to the farm on Smallville, like the actual farm set from Smallville, which I thought was a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm not sure if I like this Lois Lane or not.
I'm not sold on her.
The answer is no.
Okay, good. So I'm not alone in that. When I say I'm not sure, that usually means I don't like her, but if you guys did, I'm going to back off on it. You know what I mean?
I haven't seen enough, but in this short 3-episode thing, I'm not sold on her. No.
And this may be a stupid thing to complain about, but the actress that they got is a few years older than Tyler Hoechlin that plays Superman, and it just kind of showed on screen. I didn't really believe them as a couple.
I could see that.
Yeah, but it was fun though, getting to the farm. What'd you think of the Amazo reveal? I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. Amazo is a character that's pretty goofy in his comic book form, but I like this just raw robot form. I'm glad they didn't make him look like a shirtless elf.
Very Cyberman Borg kind of thing.
I thought it was great. It was fun because that character is so goofy in the first place, but everything we're dealing with in these shows is goofy. So now, it totally works.
Now, do you guys have a point of reference for John Deegan, the guy that gets this book of Destiny?
I don't, and I was going to ask you about it.
I only know the actor.
Well, the character is Dr. Destiny from the comics, which I know best from Sandman comics, which is pretty cool. When Sandman awakens from his sleep and escapes his captivity, the Neil Gaiman Sandman, he needs to go find these relics. And one of the relics is, I think it's called the Bloodstone or something, that Dr. Destiny has. And it turns out that's the source of Dr. Destiny's powers. And Dr. Destiny's the one, if you guys are familiar with the first story arc, there's this diner, and everybody in the diner is sort of being psychologically tortured and everything. And it's Dr. Destiny who's doing that. And Sandman shows up and gives him a good what for and gets his stone back. But so I know him best from Sandman. So that got me kind of thinking, wow, are we going to get a Sandman appearance next year or something crazy like that? I don't think that's going to happen, but that's where John Deegan is. Now, you said you're familiar with the actor, Adam.
Yeah, he was in everything from Justified to Lost, and he was in Twister, Saving Private Ryan.
Is it always the same haircut?
Yeah, pretty. It's close-ish.
So it's just crazy to me that you go to the barber and you say that that's what you need to make it big in entertainment. Here's
the thing.
Yeah,
because I can help you out with this part.
Okay.
So I got a buddy who is a struggling actor. He's a little on the heavy side.
Yeah.
Never got cast ever. Never, ever, ever got cast. Grew a mustache. Almost instantly he starts getting roles. And it's because there was something about him that when he had a mustache on, he looked like Speed Racer's dad. It's just
I love it.
It's just the way he is. So
chim chim.
So with Jeremy Davies, the guy playing Deegan, he has something inherently dirtbaggy about his face.
Yeah.
But you put that hair together like that, and you got your meth head. You got your guy
your
who's
psychiatrist.
But he's also got one of those guys that could just be crazy, but may also know something.
Right.
I just man, probably the best hair I've ever seen on Flash. I'll just leave it at that. I just love the idea that was the key to his success, was that particular hairstyle.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the same and everything. Yeah.
It's not one that most people are going to choose, or at least actually quite a few people choose that where I live, but that's another conversation altogether.
Choose, quote unquote.
But yeah, he's Dr. Destiny. That's the character we're dealing with there. And then Amazo, I think, I don't know much to say about Amazo here. They managed to work together. You know, it's that whole thing from putting the team together, that they're all getting their butt kicked the first time around because they're each trying to go solo at the same time. And then they learn to work together and they defeat the opponent there with Amazo.
Yeah, and that was all fun. Every bit of that was great. Again, you know, the more you lean into Arrow, the more I don't like it. But it wasn't super Arrow heavy. And if we can go back for a second,
yeah,
because it has been a very long time since I've sat and watched this universe. I've got to say that Melissa Benoist is just so wonderful as Supergirl.
I'm a big fan.
She is so
I don't watch that
perfectly
show.
Cast.
She was so great in Homeland. You weren't working on Homeland by the time she was on it.
I don't work in the movies, so I don't know.
I was talking to Adam, not you. I'm sorry.
I visited a set. I wouldn't have said I worked. No.
Okay. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen her on Homeland, I say check it out.
She is so wonderful as Supergirl. She's so well cast. She's, you know, it's the thing where that's so hard to get, where, you know, she's not like there's something uplifting about her as that character, kind of like Chris Evans is Captain America, where when you look at Captain America, you're just like, yep, that's my guy. like that kind of thing, you know?
It sounds weird, but I think they both have really good eyes. Just like
I would go with that.
I think it's like you look in their eyes and it feels like there's an honesty in there. And watching all of this together, I think she's the best actor out of all of these people.
Oh, it's not even close.
I don't know, man. That Sherlock Wells is pretty good.
I don't even know what that is.
Are you talking about the guy who plays Ralph Dibny?
No, I'm talking about Tom Cavanaugh.
Oh my gosh. Tom, oh boy. Oh my. I don't even know what's going on over in that corner of the room.
I don't know what accent he's doing, but it comes from the Bruce Leslie School of Accents.
At what point did he stop caring what show he was on?
At what point did he stop brushing his hair?
He walks in and just goes, "Guess what, guys? I found this teacup. I'm being French today." Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, it's great. I'm glad every time Tom Cavanaugh redoes his character, it's great. I know you guys haven't been watching Flash, but he's done a few multiverse versions of that character, and one of them was basically Matthew McConaughey wearing nothing but a bathrobe. I mean, it's just like an improv game where he's like, "You throw something out to me, you throw something out to me, boom, I've got a character."
He's playing Mad Libs with the prop department. What do you got?
Yeah, he's great, man. I'm telling you, he's great because he's there to get his joy out of the day.
I call it get a check. He's just like, look, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm bringing my name to this show, and they'll follow whatever I want to do. And they're like, yeah,
what happened to the guy who wasn't? What happened to the version of Tom Cavanaugh who wasn't a scientist? Do you remember?
That was like last season, I think, or he might have been on there for 2 seasons, and he always had a drumstick. And it turned out he was actually like he wrote pulp stories about a fictional scientist or something was what his connection was. But he was a lot of fun too. But I think I don't know, he probably died or something.
That's what they get, man. They put him in a chair for that first full season, and it just drove him straight batty. And now he just does whatever he wants.
But it makes it that much more like. When Eobard Thawne finally does show up in this show, it makes it kind of fun to say, wow, wait, I forgot. He actually is the same guy.
That was cool because it was just like oh, he showed up to work today.
And, not to get too far into Flash territory, but there's some fan theories that Sherlock Wells really is Eobard Thawne doing this bad impression to throw people off the trail, I guess you could say. Just because Sherlock is so bizarre that people really think it is like Eobard Thawne has come back in time and he's trying to get some kind of revenge. The reveal at the end of the season is going to be that he's the bad guy, and he's doing this ridiculousness so people would think he's incompetent and never dream that it's Eobard.
Oh man, like I said, it's the television show had the opportunity, the whole CW thing and all that jazz had the opportunity not to be as complicated as their comic book counterparts, and they're like, nah, we're just gonna lean into
it.
it.
We're a comic book show. We're gonna be a comic book show.
We're gonna be as stupid.
It started with season 1 of The Flash. I mean, season 1 of The Flash started screwing around with everything immediately.
Yeah.
So are we ready to go to Gotham City? The first time we've ever been to Gotham City in the Berlantiverse or the Arrowverse, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting time and timeline, if you will, even.
A couple things I want to point out is, first off, interesting that Batman is just MIA. You know, like he's been gone for a few years, we find out. But what I really like is the way that Ollie is convinced that Batman isn't real. Like
I thought that was totally cool. I really love that. I thought, what a neat, great idea that would make sense for this world. I thought that was played so well.
And, you know, lately they've downplayed Ollie's ego a lot on Arrow, but whenever they do the crossovers, we get season 1 Ollie again with that ego. Like he knows Batman's real, but he wants him to be a myth because Ollie wants to think he's the actual tough guy brooding. He's the only vigilante tough guy. There's no Batman. I like it that he lives in a world where he thinks Green Arrow deserves more accolades than Batman.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love that part of it, but I'm curious where you guys are going to come down because the internet at large was very anti the casting for this one. But how do you guys come down on Kate Kane, Batwoman? I think I've got an idea, but I don't know about. I think I know about Sha'un better than I do about Adam.
Okay. Well, Sean, take at it.
I hate it. I hate the character. I hate the actress. I think it's all garbage. I think there is a massive disconnect for me. It's that thing again where it's always what I complain about when you're hiring actors. If you're hiring an actor to play someone who's tough as nails, then you need an actor who is tough as nails. You cannot get someone who is 95 pounds and cannot handle themselves in a fight. And the person that they have playing Batgirl is definitely the latter.
Now, let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but just in general, let's not talk about Batgirl. Let's just talk about cinema, television in general. Are you not much of a Ruby Rose fan, or is it specifically this casting you're not a fan of?
I'm not a fan of... Let me start over. So I don't like Batwoman in the first place.
Okay.
And I never have. I always thought that like she was just a cast away from the golden age that needed to stay away, especially when you have a great character like Batgirl who's just awesome. And you know, like when you can take the character out of the costume and that character is still great, like that's how you know you have a good character. The Batwoman is not that character. Batwoman is basically Huntress, but less interesting to me.
Okay.
And every time she was on screen, and the casting is poor, the character itself is a poor choice. I get that you need something in that place. I get that you need to have someone there if Batman isn't going to be there and you want to go to Gotham, but this is not the right choice for me. The second that she showed up, I was like, we're going to have to, now we have to muscle through this and all the Arrow people.
Well, strap on your batty booties. She's been greenlit for a Batwoman series.
Oh, I know. Pilot, not series.
Oh, well, there you go. That's true, pilot.
But and it's going to get picked up because
for sure, none of these don't get picked up.
Yes, exactly. I mean, watching what the commercials for whatever else is on CW, it makes sense that they just keep giving money to Berlanti because they're like, look,
these tend to be doing well here.
We can't find anything. We have Supernatural and we have you. So let's just keep going.
Now, Something I'll say, though, is that I don't know if I would think maybe wisely on CW's part, maybe there's something more to it, but CW had the right of first refusal for Sabrina, and they refused it. So it's not necessarily anything's going to get picked up.
Well, big mistake on their part, the CW, because that show's doing well. Like I don't like it, but people are sure shooting watching it.
Yeah,
but if that show was on CW, it wouldn't do well.
You're probably right, though.
Yeah, but I do like the character Batwoman, but that all goes back to not that long ago. It goes back to the New 52. It was one of the storylines that was actually really good. Written by J.H. Williams III, and J.H. Williams III left the title in protest because, the editor didn't want to let him do some things he wanted to do. Specifically, he wanted her to marry the woman that she was in a committed relationship with, and Dan Didio said no. And he left, and that maybe got a little more attention on this character. The thing I like about Batwoman is the knee-jerk, easy choice is Batgirl, which Batgirl is awesome. Barbara Gordon's awesome, and the other people who've been Batgirl are awesome. But that's like the easy choice. And then you go a layer deeper, and then you get Batwoman. And I think that Batwoman maybe still has more story to tell because with Batgirl, it's going to be hard to tell a lot of new stories because there's so many iconic stories that you kind of have to be beholden to. But I feel like you've got room to work with Batwoman. The casting doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all. I really only know Ruby Rose from when she was on Orange is the New Black. I liked her there. She kind of played someone that you thought maybe was a good person and did a little bit of a heel turn towards the end. I liked her good enough, I guess, in the Meg. I mean, what the heck? She's as good as anything else in the Meg.
She's as good as the shark was in the Meg. I'll agree with that statement.
A movie that made way too much money for what it was. But I got no problem with her. I think she's actually a good choice as far as I'm terrible at casting. There's a reason that I'm not in the casting guild or whatever, because I would cast Zac Efron in every role. Didn't we already discover that?
I think so.
But I would have him as Batwoman, and he would be really good at it. But I'm interested. I'll be watching the show. I'll see how they do it. I think it's an interesting thing. I don't know if I like this Gotham City very much. I can understand maybe Batman would disappear, but Wayne Enterprises becoming a dilapidated building, I don't buy that because there's still like a board of directors and tons of people to run the business while Bruce is off being an urban legend in another city or something.
Yeah. I wonder why they didn't go full animated Batman series with this, but
yeah, that would have been good. I kind of wondered the same thing about Gotham at times too, but they kind of stop John Deegan here at the end of episode 2, and then the Monitor sort of shows up and hits the big reset button so that we get a third episode where he gets to have another go at it, right?
Yeah.
And this they teased it. One of the biggest things they teased, I think the very first, well, I won't say the very first. I think the first teaser image they released was with Supergirl, Green Arrow, Grant Gustin, and John Wesley Shipp dressed as the Flash. I think that was the first teaser they had, just to let people know they were going to be digging deep into the TV universe, multiverse, if you will. But I think one of the second ones that got a lot of attention was just simply Tyler Hoechlin in the black suit. So we thought, well, okay, how are they going to give us this black suit Superman? But we find out that John Deegan has gone back, got the Book of Destiny, and instead of we find out that what he was trying to do was make himself into the Flash, but somehow he messed it up and turned Green Arrow into the Flash. I never quite understood that, but now he goes back and decides, I've met this Superman guy, so I'm going to make myself into Superman. And he gives himself the black suit, which makes him somewhere between Bizarro and General Zod. And it kind of works for me. I don't know. Did it work for you?
Oh, you know what didn't work for me was the random office worker that just goes Bizarro, and I'm just like, cringe. That's terrible.
Oh, she might as well have been holding a shoehorn while she said that, right?
No, it was so bad. I was just like, I felt bad for her. I felt bad for the crew who had to film that. It was awful.
But at the same time, it gives us the Trigger Twins, who I have to talk about a little bit more. Barry and Oliver as the Trigger Twins. And tell me if I'm wrong, but they looked like a couple of your squarest youth pastors dressed up like drug dealers for a skit to tell kids not to do drugs.
Basically, yeah.
It looks like you know what it looks like? It looks like the punk, the punk gang in every DC 80s comic book, where like Firestorm has to go and take out the gang in an alley.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, these are clearly two guys who have never in their lives stayed out past curfew. I mean, you know, even Stephen Amell, we see the dark Green Arrow and his Ollie, he's the dark and brooding, whereas Barry's the hopeful one and the nice guy and all this. But even Stephen Amell is actually too much of a nice guy from the suburbs of Toronto to pull off being a trigger.
They walk in this bar and the PG boys make everybody go, "Oh no."
I love that. I love that. I love that term. The PG boys walk in.
and I don't know if it's the worst or best decision ever made on the CW, but it's one of those two. I'm still trying to decide. and then, of course, you've not been watching Legends of Tomorrow. You may not appreciate Gary, but Gary, the bartender, is like the squarest character from Legends of Tomorrow. The guy in the glasses playing the bartender.
Oh, yeah.
Go into Cisco Ramon's bar. So that was the sole representation of Legends of Tomorrow in this crossover.
Oh, golly. Let's talk about Cisco for a moment. Oh, man.
This is not the first time they've had an alternate timeline where Cisco is a criminal or a gang leader or a crime boss or whatever you want to call it. And he's just as bad now as he was then.
Like, I am telling you, he is, I promise you, they go to him and go, "What do you want to do this week?" Him and Kavanaugh basically get carte blanche to be like, "What crazy crap do you want to do now?" And it's never good. It's never good. He comes off awful every time.
I just wish that they could have talked him into having John Deegan's hair for this. Because he's close. He could have done it with the right product. Yeah. But yeah, they love to do funny things with his hair when he's a bad guy. They put like triple braids and a bun or something in it.
I never buy those characters. I'm never like, who in their right mind would just go like, "Yeah, this kid's our leader. Sure." No, you'd kick that guy's butt 8 way to sunset and you don't even care. Come on, dude.
What, you mean the 5'4" guy that still has baby fat on his face?
Like, he is the least intimidating person I've ever met. I'm like, "Are you running a daycare, sweetie? What is this? Get out of here."
He's the only Hispanic actor in Hollywood that's never been cast as a prisoner or a street
No,
gangster,
they're just like, "No, we don't take no soft boys in here. Get out."
But you know, they have to fight fire with fire, so to speak. So they go back to the Fortress of Solitude and recruit the real Superman.
And this Fortress of Solitude could use some work, by the way. It's okay, but man, it could be a little better.
Yeah, I still don't even know what that hammer was supposed to be. Like, I feel like it should be a big time comic book reference.
Where's
but I don't
Mjolnir coming into play?
Yeah, but Superman, you know, they get the real Superman to come to Earth 1 and fight the black suit Superman. And I'm going to say this now. I'm not talking about effects or production value, because money does a lot with how things look on screen. But I think they handled this fight better than Man of Steel handled the Superman Zod fight.
I'm watching this fight, and I'm going, is this what's on Supergirl? Because I would watch, if this was the kind of stuff, I don't know if it is, but if this is the kind of stuff that's regularly on Supergirl, I'd probably watch that, because while they're not super movie quality, it's pretty good.
This is the best fight scene I've ever seen on Supergirl. And, you know, technically this is an episode of Supergirl, far and away the best. But they've had others that are good. But it's not even, I mean, you can up the budget and make the effects better, but they just know how to handle two Kryptonians fighting, just the way the fight should go down, how it should happen, the way that you can avoid some of the mass destruction they got so much criticism for. And it's actually fun to watch. I had no fun watching the General Zod fight in Man of Steel. I'm actually enjoying this fight through the air and going through windows and stuff, and you don't have to demolish an entire city to do this fight.
I like.
What about when they went through the high hop? That wasn't like a big deal for you?
I do like pancakes.
There was that guy that he knew that one time. Oh boy.
Pancakes, one of my top 50 or 60 foods.
Yeah, they're great, and then you hate them.
Exactly. It's a great line from somewhere. Oh, that's Mitch Hedberg, right?
Yes, it is.
I love Mitch Hedberg. If only he were Superman. But anyway, here's a thought I had, though. I mean, I understand they went with Tyler Hoechlin fighting Tyler Hoechlin, But wouldn't it have been kind of fun just to have John Deegan in the Superman suit, the black suit?
No.
No.
I would have loved that actor in the black suit fighting Superman.
No, it would have been.
Hey, look, the real Superman's fighting a methed out Superman. What's going on?
Where do you find a suit skinny enough to fit that guy?
You got to have one of those ones that just has this hose in the back that just sucks all the air out and just kind of.
You just go get one of those like morph suits. You know what I'm talking about? You basically get a Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man suit and put an S on it.
That's basically what he would look like.
You paint him black
with that hair, man. Because there was the black suit Superman did have a mullet when he came back from Death of Superman, so it would have been kind of a funny in-joke. Having the mullet Superman.
Get kind of that Dan Jurgens mullet era Superman going on.
Oh, man, so good.
but once they do manage to defeat Deegan and get him out of the Superman form, and we see him sitting in a cell in Arkham Asylum, and he has like that almost like a zombified face, that's given him the Dr. Destiny facial appearance that we know from the comics. So I thought that was a nice little nod, but I'm probably skipping ahead a little bit. Big Superman fight, lots of fun.
Hair didn't change a bit. That's the best part.
And then we have this another thing, a nice reference. Once again, they're trying to do for television and movies what the comics did with, let's just say it, this is all just to get our appetites whetted for what they're going to do in the fall, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths, that I want us to save time to discuss that. But we do get a little homage to Superman the movie, where Superman flew around to turn time back. Here, instead of turning time back, they're just going to slow it down. And Oliver reveals that he saw in the Book of Destiny. Was it Oliver or Superman? Superman reveals, I think. Somebody saw in the Book of Destiny that Flash and Supergirl were going to die. And, of course, those were the famous deaths from Crisis on Infinite Earths, Flash and Supergirl, that actually persisted until the New 52 came around.
Oh, I had not put that together.
Yeah, those are the two, because that's when Wally West became the Flash for like 23 years.
Yeah. And then Supergirl turned into that thing that can change shape.
Yeah, Supergirl Matrix is what that was called, that Lex Luthor Jr. built on a computer, something goofy like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the two big
and
deaths.
then dated her.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there were, other deaths in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but the ones that mattered were Barry Allen and Supergirl. So, that was a nice little homage to the comics, but Oliver goes and talks to the Monitor, and he makes a deal, though we don't know what that deal is. I like that. They're leaving that as a mystery that he says, if the universe is a complicated machine, and if one thing doesn't happen, something else has to. So what do you offer me in return? And I mean, we all assume Oliver's saying, take me. But he also should have said, you can take me, and you know what? You can take Batman, too. That would be kind of funny. I'll throw Batman into the deal.
I'd like to parlay someone else as well, please.
But he gets a magic arrow or something so he can shoot the book and reset everything back the way it's supposed to be. But another fun thing is Amazo shows back up. Brainiac 5, who is a lot of fun if you've been watching Supergirl. This actor's kind of weird, but Brainiac 5's kind of a weird character from the Legion of Superheroes. He sizes up the android, where everybody else has been soiling their drawers over Amazo. He's like, oh, this will be a fun challenge. And then they go completely off camera and have what I can only imagine is the most glorious fight in the history of superhero media that we don't get to see. And then after, we kind of forget that they're up in the sky fighting. And then as the happy ending is happening, down comes Brainiac 5 and Amazo just falls on the ground, and he's got like a piece of circuitry in his hand, the motherboard or something like that. I thought that was kind of funny.
It's not bad. That's a weird thing about all of this show is that there's so many points where I was just like, yes, this is exactly what I want. I love this. And there are other points where it's just like, okay, let me check my email.
Now, when Psycho Pirate shows up in his gold mask, I mean, that gold mask is pretty recognizable to me. Did you guys know exactly who we were getting there?
I thought this was a Court of Owls thing.
I thought it was the Anti-Monitor.
Well, the Anti-Monitor doesn't quite look like the golden mask, but yeah, that was Psycho Pirate. And we even got to see him just briefly as like a background thug or something, where he had the gold mask and he had like the like almost like the Jester's scepter in his hand, and he's riding in a car or something that gets stopped. Like we briefly see Psycho Pirate, and then at the end, Psycho Pirate makes his bigger appearance where he says, "Worlds will live, worlds will die, and the universe will never be the same." And then we get the stinger that I want to talk about. Hopefully, we're not running out of time, Adam.
No, we're good,
because this is something that is probably what really people want us to talk about more than the actual Elseworlds. But it flashes across the screen. Coming in fall 2019, Crisis on Infinite Earths. And Flash has been telling us we're going to get to Crisis on Infinite Earths for a long time.
Basically,
they make it.
That could be the show's subtitle. Flash. We promise we're getting to Crisis.
Well, it's something that I don't know if everybody appreciated. I don't know if you guys appreciate it, but it said fall, not winter. And these big crossovers are normally the winter mid-season finales. Mm-hmm. And then they go on a brief hiatus for the holidays and come back. But this says fall, which makes me think they might start the season off with Crisis on Infinite Earths. And maybe Ollie dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and we don't get a season of Arrow next year because it's kind of run its course. And in these flash forwards they've been giving us on Arrow, which you guys haven't been watching, Ollie is not in the future that they're showing us.
Oh no!
Yeah, so this could Ollie could die on Crisis on Infinite Earths. There may not be an Arrow. They might be starting the whole season off so that they can explain total reboots on Flash, which probably wouldn't hurt to have one. That could be our introduction into whatever needs to change in the world so that they can give us the Batwoman show they're going to give us. Maybe it'll have a little shake up for Legends of Tomorrow, but I honestly think the season premieres next year in September are going to be the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, and then we're going to get seasons unlike any we've had before, for better or worse.
So what about the entirety of Arrow's supporting cast? Will they be dead too?
Well, here's what I'll say. They'll probably live, but there won't be a show for them to be on, so it won't matter.
Oh, that's what a shame. Oh, no.
But I think they're probably going to give Arrow's time spot to Batwoman. Because you don't really need...
That's really going to affect my life.
Because they don't need two non-powered vigilante shows.
No, for sure they don't. And I mean, what a special treat when he does show up in a different show. I mean,
or he becomes something like the new Monitor. So he shows up as this otherworldly being on the Flash when they don't know what to do or they're about to give up. Weird stuff like that.
I can't imagine that Stephen Amell is okay with not being on a show anymore, though. He's probably going somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Like he seems like the kind of guy that would be up for doing a guest appearance once a year.
Well, he's Canadian. I mean, you know.
Yeah, we'll see him in the reboot of the McKenzie Brothers. But some other things, man, I want to talk about on Crisis on Infinite Earths. First off, the famous deaths from the comics, like I said, are Barry Allen and Supergirl. But I think what they're going to do, because I have heard, they've sent Superman off to Argo, so that, because I've heard they brought Superman in as a kind of a fan treat last season on Supergirl, and then they've done it some this season, and he was in the crossover, and now they're like, we're kind of building up this Superman character, and it's going to steal the show from Supergirl if we're not careful, is kind of what I think some of the thought is. So I think that famous comic book artwork of Superman holding the dead Supergirl in his arms from Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think we're going to see that gender swapped. I think we're going to see Melissa Benoist CGI'd to be holding Tyler Hoechlin's dead body in her arms. I think Superman might be part of that deal that Oliver made.
That is a very excellent point. I would not put that past them at all.
And they have to kill a Flash. But
there's like 17 on that show now, right? There's like 17 different people who have speed power.
But they're not going to kill Grant Gustin. But I think that maybe is that how they kill Barry Allen? Like he takes over as the Flash for that one final mission to stop the Anti-Monitor and to outrun the Black Racer, and he's the one who dies because we've seen him with the Flash power before. Or another thought I had is if they want to be technically correct, which I guess is the best kind of correct, but still save Grant Gustin, they could have John Wesley Shipp in the Flash costume as the Barry Allen that dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Because they've already killed him at least twice. They killed Henry Allen. They killed his version of Jay Garrick, I think. I mean, they love to just keep killing John Wesley Shipp and bringing him back.
Man, that guy dies real good.
Here's the thing I like this Superman a lot. Frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing him. And so I can't say I don't watch Supergirl, so it's not like I'm watching any of these things on a regular basis. But like, I like him. I think he's pretty good. And it's tough to warm up to a new Superman, as always. But I'll say this: what I really liked is that they rode away around Kevin Smith's Superman thing, and I thought it was really, really clever.
What is that? Tell me more. I don't remember what you're talking about.
So essentially, when they're going off there, they don't say that she's been impregnated yet, but they go, "Oh, you're going to have kids. You want to have a kid." So they're going off. So they're leaving the Earth's yellow sun. So
to go to Argo City.
In fact, they could go to Argo, get her impregnated, and have a kid. So the kid coming into the world wouldn't kill her as that kid would if they was near the yellow sun of the Earth. They took Kevin Smith's thing and said, "I'm going to write a way out of this," and that's awesome.
It makes sense, and they can bring him back if they ever want to do Jonathan Kent version of Superboy. They can always do something weird there.
It's neat. I was just like, good job, man.
What other properties do we realistically think they can pull in on Crisis on Infinite Earths? I mean, with this one, they pulled in Smallville and they pulled in the 90s Flash, but they're going to have to go for everything they possibly can when they do the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, I think the easiest would be to pull in some animation. They go to an animated world where it's like Bruce Timm style animation.
I'm going to say that is, Sean, are you a betting man? Because I don't know what the odds on something like this would end up being, but that sounds highly not likely.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it as a thinking outside the box, Bruce. I like your gusto, but I don't think in a million years that's going to happen.
Well, I think as far as cost is involved, animation's the easiest one to pull in. Do you follow me there?
Oh, cost-wise, but to pull it off and have it not stink?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to, Who Framed Roger Rabbit's almost 30 years ago now, and they're not going to have that level to work with even.
And what's your cost ratio here? Like, what's the benefit of, like, how much money can you pay and have it be only so good? And, like, it's not a return on investment.
What if they pull in Super Friends? I mean, they've got to pull in.
Then it just looks stupid. Then it just looks absolutely dumb. And people don't take it seriously. Like, this is a show that people have a hard enough time taking seriously because all they got to do is watch Iris cry for 3 hours each week.
That's two no votes for animation, so we'll move on. Do you think they pull in Donald Logue to be Harvey Bullock? Do you think they go to the Gotham universe? So you think they can work with Fox enough to get because Gotham will be off the air by this time. That show's final season will be done by the time Crisis on Infinite Earths comes.
It'd surely be interesting. I mean, I'm down for any kind of weird cameos they'd like to do, but I've
never seen anything that wasn't made at least 13% better by Donald Logue.
Oh, if I could remember the name of that sitcom, you'd change your mind.
Terriers.
No. This was before then.
Oh man, well you have to watch the episode where he's not in it. It's 13% worse than the one that he is.
Oh, but what about the one where he's just that dirty cab driver on MTV?
Oh wow, yeah.
Now that's the one you don't want to be stuck with.
Well, anyway, I think they could probably pull him in, and I think that would be interesting. Do you think they can get any kind of cinematic references?
No. I don't know how they would be able to afford it.
I was about to say the bread alone is really where this is going to start crumbling.
And you've got to look at stuff like, they're probably looking at properties from the 80s, but I can't remember anything in the 80s and 90s that was a DC. Oh, there you go. The Adventures of Lois and Clark. They'll probably have that.
Well, how about we have Terry Hatcher as middle-aged Lois Lane from a timeline where Superman died and never came back.
Right.
If you have Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain, man, they have both said that they'd like to do something. So I wouldn't be 1,000% shocked if that happened.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't be that hard to put Brandon Ruth in a Superman costume as a callback to Superman Returns. Because they've already got Brandon Ruth in Legends.
That'd be to me, that'd be like kind of a fun thing. It's like, what in the heck is this? Kind of, Of course, he's going to look way better now than he did back then because he's so much bigger.
But I'm thinking that's something that's a low hanging fruit. Because if you're going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths, you've got to go further than they did here, where they pulled in 2 properties. But they're going to have to pull in some stuff that's like, wow, that was pretty cool. Like even if all you have is just like some of the scenery. I'm not talking about any of the actual actors or anything, but you go to a Tim Burton version of Gotham.
Yeah.
and you've just got some of the set and some of the devices, something recognizable. Maybe you see the Tim Burton version of the Batmobile go down the road without ever seeing Batman.
Or you go even further back than that and you do Batman 66.
Or
And
you just
that's an easy one
CGI
to just
Christopher
have.
Reeve. We could all come up with a ton of bad ideas, guys. These are all horrible. None
Well,
of
they've got no. This is Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's the point. Is you're streamlining some of the horrible, but you've got
the problem
to
is
acknowledge
you're working with a Crisis of Infinite budget that they don't have over there.
how expensive is it to get a replica 66 Batmobile and some goofy. I mean, come on. The sets for Batman 66 cost about $75 in plywood and paint.
Yeah, they're so great. Honestly, you're just renting the Batmobile for a day. That's all you need it for.
And those things, there are tons of them out there that go to cons and stuff. There are probably people that would be proud to let you use it,
Sure.
To say that because there's you can get them for less than $100,000 now, and there are plenty of people that have them. They're like the Back to the Future DeLoreans. A lot of people have. I don't know. I'm not saying you're going to get Jason Momoa coming in as Aquaman, but you may be able to get the guy that played Aquaman in the pilot that was never shown on TV, but was only sold like as a digital download. That was
what a great idea! Like all of the canceled pilots, what a great idea!
Yeah, I think there's still some stuff you can do, and it's kind of hard not to
That
do
weird
animation.
Justice League America pilot that we saw a few years back that had Guy Gardner, and
I don't know if that one has enough. I don't know if enough people would recognize that one, but we certainly would.
The world just goes, what just happened?
That's some of my discussion though. Is they've got to pull a few more things in. They have to pull in something that hints at cinematic. They have to pull in things that hint at other shows we don't expect them to pull in. And I think Gotham would be an easy one that a lot of people would recognize. It'll be off the air. You'd probably are within sort of like your rights to have Donald Logue play Harvey Bullock without having to pay like rights to Fox to use Gotham's IP.
You get the Superman from Smallville. You actually get that guy. I mean, there's a lot you can do.
What's his name? Tom Welling or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I got a prediction. You'll have 1.5 new things that you didn't see in this episode, in these 3 episodes. That's it. 1.5.
I think they're going. I think they're going for broke, and they're really going to try to change things up. I think it's going to be just as impactful for the Arrowverse as Crisis on Infinite Earths was for comics, and it was hugely impactful for better or worse.
Mark your words. I think you're going to eat it real hard, Bruce, because I don't think that. I think they are going to. They are a if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it kind of thing, and they're so that they'll continue to do over and over, just like DC.
I think 3 months ago, if we were having a discussion like this and I described verbatim what we got for Elseworlds, you would have told me I was crazy.
I don't think anything in here is too awful, wild, and crazy, though.
I think as soon as I say that the Monitor's going to show up, a lot of people would have been rolling their eyes at me. Amazo's going to show up. Well, they're going to actually bring in the 90s Flash, which they had the actor. Why they hadn't done it sooner, I don't know.
Beats me, but
they do have Helen Slater, too. I mean, she plays the mom on Supergirl. She's on about every third episode of Supergirl.
That's true.
So they could have an older Supergirl show up. That could be the cinematic reference that's easy to pull off.
Well, you know what the
City Slicker's own Helen Slater.
Well, you know what the toughest cinematic trick really is finding out how a television show relates back to one Sylvester Stallone.
Hey, here's the thing. Cassandra Jean Amell plays Nora Freeze on Arrow and Supergirl. Cassandra Jean Amell is probably best known for walking off of America's Next Top Model because she was salty about what they were doing with her hair. True story. And there's only one reason why Cassandra Jean Amell is even on Arrow to begin with. It's because she's married to Stephen Amell, the star of Arrow. She was on Mad Men and One Tree Hill and Hannah Montana. I'm just going to throw this out there. She ain't no good at the acting. She's pretty, but she's on the CW where everyone's pretty. Everyone is pretty. You need a judge on your show? We've got a 24-year-old Brazilian supermodel. You needed a vetted, award-winning scientist at the top of his field? How about we cast this 18-year-old Calvin Klein underwear model? Hey, You see that ungodly, handsome African-American gentleman with washboard abs and a flawless jawline? He's a homeless war vet. I can tell because he has stubble and an army jacket on. Therefore, he's a homeless war vet. And oh my God, he's so earnest, what with the troubles he's seen. And if you're blind to context clues, you probably haven't figured out yet that I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Cassandra Jean, but at least she was a guest star on the TV show Vegas, which means she's been on a show that Sylvester Stallone has been on. Sylvester Stallone is someone who no one has ever accused of being too handsome, and guess what? Not a single CW credit to his resume.
For shame.
This week's Stallone connection is Stephen Amell's wife. And what do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? She's an absolute gem to work with on set. Thank you. I'm Sean Koufax. Thank you.
Good ending. Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to see what that consists of, head on over to Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Throw us a like, why don't you? And hey, suggest it to a friend. Bruce, where does this Elseworlds little series fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
This show hits a kind of sweet spot for me that comic book adaptations seem to miss all too often. You know, we had a whole slew of things that try to just be a little too realistic. They try to dial back the goofiness of the comics. And then sometimes we get animation that I honestly feels like tries to take something that's not all that intelligent to begin with and dumb it down a little bit. Like it seems hard to find something that just embraces that it's based on a comic book and says, hey, why don't we try to make this feel like a comic book? Well, I really felt like this crossover felt like a comic book. Now, I don't know if you guys looked. I shared with you the Rotten Tomatoes rating on this. Did you guys see that?
I saw the 100%.
It's a bit high.
Yeah, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for the first two episodes, 93% for the finale. This presentation, I don't know what else to call it. This event, this television event, definitely has an audience, and it has a kind of joy. It hits a sweet spot for people that just want to have fun. You know, can't you just have fun for a moment? That's what I want to do sometimes. I kicked back. This was fun. I absolutely loved the Superman versus evil Superman fight. I absolutely laughed at and not with the Trigger twins. I enjoyed the small moments, like when Barry doesn't think it's such a big deal that him and Ollie have swapped places until he finds out that Ollie was in bed with Iris, and man, he's got to get this fixed now. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I like it that there's Psycho Pirate, and there's the Monitor, and there's the Book of Destiny, and Dr. Destiny, and it has me so eager for Crisis on Infinite Earths, which this is all just a setup for. Amazing in its own right, but just a setup for something that I'm hoping this is the Batman Begins to the Dark Knight, you know? So I'm saying this is a
no
Dick Grayson.
Pressure, CW. No pressure.
This is a Dick Grayson for me because I have not enjoyed these shows this season. I didn't enjoy them much last season, but this I'm enjoying, and they're embracing exactly what they are. There's no shame here. There's good fun. I love pulling in the older properties, and I want them to pull in more. This is a Dick Grayson for me. This is comic book television, the best I've ever seen it.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. And for a contrasting interview, Sean?
Well, before I start rating for myself, I want to mention this, which is that this is the kind of bad that Bruce loves. Like Bruce likes things that are bad sometimes, and this is exactly like this is his wheelhouse right here. You know, because this is not good. This is bad, but it's a fun bad, which is kind of, you know, like think Hasselhoff, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That is where Bruce lives. And so, of course, Bruce is going to love this thing. And, of course, he's going to love Crisis on Infinite Earths. And we're going to be having many conversations that look exactly like this one we're having here this evening, where you and I are just dumbfounded with the stupidity of something, and Bruce is like, "Are you kidding me? It's Psycho Pirate."
He's the only one jumping up and down on his couch screaming "Psycho Pirate." His wife is just going, "Why is she talking about himself in the third person?"
Absolutely is. And so, I love that. I love that. That's the way Bruce is. Like this is something where Bruce is like, finally someone gets me.
This is a kid who wants the Blob as a series. So what are you going to do? What do you expect?
Exactly.
Now, if I can confess, I honestly grabbed my son and said, "Look, it's Psycho Pirate," and he said, "So?"
Huh?
Yeah. Like we did, like Adam and I did.
We just go.
I didn't even know that was Psycho Pirate, for God's sake.
Okay.
I've been reading comic books for 30 years. I didn't know who that was. Anyway. So for me, this is a very, very middle of the road thing for me. I had fun with it, but when it is bad, it is so bad. But at least they don't spend a full hour in the coffee shop like they do on every episode of Flash.
But I just don't know about my feelings this time. Oh, for God's sake, how many times do we have to do the same conversation?
I know. Let's go to the coffee house and talk about how I'm mad at you, Barry.
Why? Because we have to pay for this space, so we have to go here. We have to shoot here, otherwise.
Yeah, and you know, when they start getting into more of the Arrows, the cast, the Arrow cast stuff, like that's all crap. Those people are awful.
It seems like fences are acting in front of you.
I love Supergirl. I love Flash. I even like the guy who's playing John Johns. I think he's good too. But for the most part, this is not good. This is a Damian Wayne. This is a low Damian Wayne.
Now, I started with a Damian Wayne. Then I worked a little bit up from a Damian Wayne. Because you're right. There's enough in here to recommend. There are some good times. There's a lot of not so good stuff in this, and some of those times CW just can't help being CW, and some of that happens. And like I said, that's when you check your tweets and your emails and whatnot and go like, did they drop the price on that on Amazon yet? Let me take a look. That's what you spend that time doing when they're just doing whatever. But the times that it's on, and it's doing really, really good. I love that fight scene. I was just like, man, if this is what they're doing over on Supergirl, I need to watch some Supergirl, but apparently they're not. But I will say this, Bruce, your little your passion plea at the end there got me going. I'm going to go up to a low Tim Drake as opposed to a high Damian Wayne. So I'm on your... I want to be as enthusiastic and love this as much as you do. I really want to. But I'm more in the cynical Sean camp.
It's not cynicism. I mean, I like what they're doing. This is exactly what this needs to be. If they tried to go above and beyond, let me put it like this.
Yeah, maybe
right?
cynic's not the right word.
Right, but let me put it like this. So, you know, I saw the worst movie of 2018 in 2018 at the end of 2018, Mortal Engines. That movie is just... so bad, it's great.
Now that's one few I haven't seen, but Holmes and Watson, you
one.
may need to watch that because that's, oh boy,
that movie is such a travesty. It is great. There are so many things in that movie where it's as if somebody had a really bad idea, and each time they had a bad idea, they turned to somebody who had ill intent and went, "Hey, is this a good idea?" And the person standing next to him, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. You should do that." And it happens again and again and again in that movie, to the point where I love that movie because it's so awful. But I'm not going to recommend that movie to anyone. No one should see Mortal Engines, but it's fun. And that's what this is to me too. It's the same thing where it's, look, there's a lot. It is embarrassing to watch. It is. They're like just again and again and again. You're like, oh, I hate that person. Oh, I hate that person. That's right. Oh, they're terrible at their job. But it's still fun when the stuff that recommends it outweighs the stuff that's terrible about it. And so while we're still doing that dance, I like it, you know?
It's not bad.
I like it.
No, I concur. I concur. Well, that is it, everybody. Like we said, Elseworlds, that whole event is available on the CW app. So on your
for free,
your smartphones, your tablets, your Apple TVs, your Roku's, just get that CW app and stream it yourself. Watch a crap load of those Liberty Mutual ads. Try not to shoot yourself in the head, and have a pretty decent time.
Liberty.
Oh boy, Liberty. The check is in the mail, or at least it should be. You bunch of so-and-sos. Anywho, next week, I don't know what we're doing next week. We didn't talk about it before the show.
What are we doing next week?
Do we want to figure that out now or just after the show?
Hey, we could just talk about this some more.
We'll talk about it after the show. But in the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I would love for people to go to facebook.com/ChubbyWizard and vote for the Chubbies, our annual awards for comic book writers, artists, storylines, publishers, and we also have a movie and TV category that people can vote for. But I love getting those votes so that we can announce sometime soon the winners of the 2018 Chubbies. And I'm working on getting some trophies made to actually give to these winners, thanks to a wonderful recommendation by Alex Cottle.
Very nice. And Sean Koufax, is there a Blimpie where people can go meet you at, or what?
I am a man of mystery. I am in the ether. You'll never find me.
Try to catch me. I'm like the wind. And of course, the Film Find. I will be dropping a new Film Find on Monday. We recorded it on Thursday, but the internet, at the last second, just cut out and wouldn't allow me to do anything. It's a giant episode Krista and I was on, and we talked about a boatload of movies and stuff. That'll be going up on Monday because, as you can hear this episode, the internet is actually up and working halfway decent. So we'll get that out to you on Monday. You
guys haven't fritzed out at all this week.
Oh my gosh, tons of stuff. So we'll check that out at the Film Find, everybody. That's it. Join us next week for something special. We're not quite sure. For Sean Koufax, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.